Hey there everyone, Nubkeks here and welcome back, not to Heroes of Our Storm as I said in the last couple episodes by accident, but to Heroes of the Storm, and we are going to be playing Abathur. In today's game we're continuing our sort of off-meta look at the heroes. I think it's a really great way, by the way, to finish off this season and prepare for the next season, and also a pretty cool resource hopefully as well for a whole bunch of you guys who may be new to the game with the Nexus challenge that's going on at the moment. I'm probably going to do like a channel update video chatting about all that sort of aspect of things. I don't know, that might even be up on the channel. I don't know, I've got about 3 of these videos to sit down and do commentary for today. Got some nice ones, a couple of nice ones here with my buddy Zaba, who we will be playing with in this game. You can see at the moment I was thinking of doing Asmodan. I want to get some Asmodan footage for you. Haven't got it yet, but he is going to be playing Illidan. So I'm thinking I will pick up the Abathur here, which you can see he's talking about how his placement games went so badly. He was Diamond last season, he's in Platinum this season. However, I've played with him before and he's a really, really good Illidan. So you can see he's got the Master Illidan skin. I'm more than happy to play with him. I think this is very important when it comes to playing Abathur. Abathur is a difficult hero to play, a very difficult hero to play. He's also a very team comp dependent and very map dependent hero. So Illidan is probably the classic hero that Abathur synergizes with really well. He also works well with, I would say, heroes like well, basically, actually, let me explain the reasoning of why he's good with heroes, and then you could come along with me as I go through it. Basically, Abathur has a Symbiote ability, which he puts a little hat on a given hero, and that gives them basically a few sort of empowered abilities that Abathur can activate. He can shoot a spike from that hero, which does damage. He can do an AoE spike burst from that hero, which does some damage. He can give them a shield. So basically, Abathur does really well with heroes that tend to be sort of consistently in the midst of the enemy team in their backline. He can put the Symbiote on top of them, and it gets just huge value, increases their survivability, and delivers this extra damage into the enemy, sort of the middle of the enemy team. So he works really well with Illidan. Chen is another great one. I think he'd also be decent with Samuro, for sure. We are also going to be building into something which gives attack speed, by the way, so that works well with Illidan and Chen. Works great with Tracer, I think. Tyrael, very good. Muradin, very good. Yeah, kind of heroes like that. Greymane, excellent with Greymane. And can even work quite well with Zeratul sometimes. So you get the rough idea of who he's going to combo well with. So you can see as well, I'm talking here in the chat and saying, you know, Dahaka is not good here, and I'm kind of dying inside slightly when 2 of our players appear to think that Dahaka is good. Definitely giving the a very strong impression that we're playing with weaker team members. We've rolled the unranked draft dice, and instead of getting a good quality game, looks like we're going to be getting a very low quality game, because they are basically advocating for something that is a really, really bad choice. So just to mention, solo tank Dahaka. Solo tank Dahaka in the first place is extremely weak. He lacks control, he lacks mobility. He's just a very poor choice as a solo tank. Dahaka, as I've said before in my Dahaka video, feel free to go check that out and I show you exactly how to play him. Dahaka does excellently as a second warrior in your team, because he does a ton of damage. And when someone else can set up the tongue for him, he can follow up another stunt. For example, let's say you have a Muradin Dahaka, really good combo. ETC Dahaka, really good combo. The first tank leads with 1 stun, Dahaka follows up on that, and then he brings a ton of damage to the team fight. He also brings tons of wave clear. He's very powerful solo laning. He's very powerful doing split push. He just like runs down a side lane and then pushes that like crazy, gets loads of XP for his team, and then burrows in with his Brush Stalker ability to the team fight and joins in. So yeah, I was kind of curious, what is this guy? Okay, he's Platinum 4. Honestly, at Platinum 4, I'd be kind of hoping that you'd be better at playing more tanks and at knowing where people fit in a little bit more. I don't know if I'm being too optimistic or something. But yeah, as Zaba says, uh-oh, Feng is getting nervous. But yeah, we could see on his profile, He's level 10 on Johanna. I'm sure he'll be fine. And Johanna is also a pretty easy hero to play, so that will be fine. Not as ideal as like a Muradin would have been with our composition, but it's not awful by any means. But yeah, I mean, we've got actually I would say much better composition than they do. We have the Illidan Abathur combo, which is pretty nice. Vala, it's an absolutely top-notch ranged assassin. She combos really well with Oriel as well. Because, again, with Oriel, you want a ranged damage dealer that does high sustained damage. Gul'dan, Lunara, Vala, anyone like that who can provide her with just a great, consistent source of energy, letting her get off great, consistent, and powerful heals. Be very impactful. And then Johanna is a really good solo tank. Which, as I'm saying here in the chat, them picking Dahaka hurts them and helps us. It's really, really useful. Oh, it's unbelievable. Like, we were actually so lucky that they picked Dahaka in this situation, because it put them in the Dahaka solo tank spot, and it prevented our teammates from picking the solo tank Dahaka spot and thinking they were doing great, and then probably flaming the team when we inevitably started losing the game, because Dahaka is just not a good solo tank. Now, the thing with Abathur, right, we are going to be sitting back behind our structures for pretty much the whole game. We do not participate with our body in the fight. What that means is that our teammates are, for the most part, fighting a 4v5, but they're going to have hats on top of them. Now, what this means is that normally solo tank Dahaka is bad, because he brings a lack of control. Well, this is even worse. Basically, the importance of your roles become even more important when you have only 4 heroes. It's going to be the same with heroes like the Lost Vikings, a hero like Nova. You only want to really pick these heroes into a strong 4-man team comp. A strong 4-man team comp is one solid main tank, one solid main healer, one solid range damage dealer, and then the 4th slot is a bit flexible. Usually you want a melee assassin. So we actually have that set up here. We've got solid main tank, which is Johanna, solid main healer, which is Oriel, solid range damage dealer, which is Vala, and then Illidan, melee assassin, filling in that role. We have a very classical Abathur composition set up. Now, if we had Dahaka would be a secondary tank, not a main tank, and we'd really be suffering. But yeah, we're going to have a pretty good advantage, I would say, later in the game, because Dahaka just can't do anything about Illidan. I think Zaba was saying he's actually a bit scared of Dahaka. He's saying, well, you just run past Dahaka. You just never go near him. He's got very slow movement speed. You just run past him as Illidan, and suddenly Dahaka is literally useless, because all he can do is run after you, and you can just never be near him. And suddenly their tank is literally useless at defending their team from this Illidan Abathur enhanced Illidan push. So there you go. Right, let's actually talk a bit about the gameplay. Let's talk about the talents and what we're looking to do on Abathur. So as you can see, I am behind the gate. We do have a bot Vala, which is making things rather difficult at the start. One of our teammates could ping her and take them with her. This is fine as well. It's Gul'dan, Medivh is doing some sort of fancy footwork, trying to escape right here, trying to do the best he can. Vala does die in the top lane. Nothing much we can do about that. And we're just enhancing Illidan as he goes in. While we're in the symbiote form, as I said, our Q, you can see we've got these charges. There it is right there, as I missed that Gul'dan, and I missed him again. It shoots out this spike, does a little bit of damage. Our W does this AoE burst damage, which is pretty nice. And our E, very long cooldown, but it gives an extra shield, which helps people to survive. When we're not in symbiote mode, we can throw down these toxic nests with our W. Again, it's a charge system. They take a few seconds to arm, and they are then invisible. As you see, when Dahaka walks over it, it does a bit of damage and also reveals him. Obviously, it dismounts people as well. So these give you a nice bit of sort of map control and vision control, very importantly. You can throw them down in sort of like the main areas where people can run. I'm just letting our teammates know we have an AI Vala, in case they haven't noticed. I think they did, but just in case. Excuse me. But yeah, you want to be throwing down these toxic nests for the most part. I see a lot of players throw them down. They just spam them in the middle of the lane to try to clear the waves. This is usually a waste. You can do it to a small extent if you want. You can also layer them up on a merc camp and try to take a merc camp really easily. For example, I could just like throw a whole bunch down in our bruiser camp, and then our teammates could run up and steal the bruiser camp. That is an option. You got a few sort of options as to what you want to do. I personally will generally throw them in the brushes. You can see I'm throwing them just in the middle of all these sort of main thoroughfares. to try get us vision and to try to protect my teammates as they move in to contest these points. It also stops people rotating and ganking, which is important because your team will be effectively a man down at the start of the game with Abathur, who scales very well, but it's pretty weak early on. He's pretty weak early on. One of the things you'll notice that I'm doing as well is using this hat, the Symbiote, on the minion waves. So one of the unique things that the Symbiote does is it soaks XP. So if minions die near the Symbiote, it will absorb the XP. For example, you'll see one of these ones. Oh, okay, never mind. I tapped away. Let's see. There you go. You see one dies. You see the little XP pop up showing. We're actually dying to Dahaka. Luckily, his tongue hit a minion. I'm going to throw a nest down in the lane. This is actually kind of important, right? Another thing you could do, not only can you soak experience using your Abathur hat, your Abathur Symbiote, you can also soak experience with Abathur's body. However, it does become very, very risky. And I think people, if you are familiar with how Abathur, if you're a pretty diligent Abathur player or have been before, you're actually going to be at a bit of a disadvantage to playing him currently. I think Abathur's body soaking is at the weakest it's ever been at the moment. It's the weakest it's ever been. I think it's actually relatively unimportant at the moment to body soak, and part of that comes to the fact that we are going to be running a Symbiote build as opposed to sort of alternative builds focusing more on the nests or focusing more on our locusts and their split push. Basically our trait is that we spawn out these little locusts. You can see them with the yellow health bars. They'll push down the lanes and they'll do a bit of damage. Obviously we want to be closer to the enemy structures to get more value out of those. With this build though, we can basically ignore that. It's not important. You can see Illidan is going in here, kind of going ham, and we're just protecting him as Vala grabs the tribute. So that's pretty good actually. Denying the enemy team the curse is a pretty big deal. And you can see the siege trap that we took up top has been doing a lot of work while the enemy team was fighting over that tribute. So that's a very big win for us. But yeah, we are building into Symbiote, and I'll tell you what the talent build is very, very shortly. But basically we're making that hat we put on things much stronger. I think this build in particular really is the build where body soaking is the least important, because body soaking is very risky. If you get caught out of position, like Dahaka almost killed me, and you're dead, then you're not doing anything while you're dead. And with our Symbiote, we are very powerful when we are dead. We've really invested a lot into making that better. Nice tongue from Dahaka, actually grabs Illidan and takes him out. Like I said, it's very powerful. The tongue would be very powerful if Dahaka hits Illidan, but good job Dahaka, says Zava. But yeah, very good if it hits Illidan, but in a team fight, especially later in the game, he's never going to. Or almost never going to. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, I would generally recommend actually with Abathur at the moment. People have gotten quite good at playing against Abathur, I think, and punishing him for body soaking, particularly heroes like Dahaka, Falstad, Nova, Zeratul. If there's any hero that's going to be good at finding you and picking you off, you really want to avoid them as much as possible. You do not want to get involved in a fight with these guys. See, I'm trying to pop out my clone here, which is my heroic ultimate evolution. I'm going to pop that out, and actually the fear kind of helping us chase down this Morales. She is not in a good spot. This is going to be a very dead Morales. Looks like she's already dead, so I'm going to turn around and start focusing on our friend over here, the Medivh. He is going to go down. There we go. We time our vault to hit that empowered basic attack as his protection wears off, then hit him with a multi-shot as well, and he does go down. Dahaka coming in, he is going to pick off one of our heroes, our oil, but it shouldn't be a big deal. That's 3 enemy heroes dead. We still have 2 up, and moving forwards to try to take this tribute, which will put us 2-2 in terms of the tributes. You can see here, I know exactly where the enemy team is, so I'm going to move up through the lane. It's basically completely safe at this point, and in no danger. Going to throw, oh yeah, this is actually going somewhat badly. I perhaps, by moving down through the lane and trying to help out there, I kind of left our teammates, our team open to not actually picking up that tribute, so that was a bit of a downside right there. You can see I'm positioned up the lane. I'm going to absorb the XP from minions when they die near me, and I'm going to help my trait push in and achieve a little bit more because it's going to spawn closer. It's not going to time out as quickly, so that can be important. And like I said, good Abathur players are going to be aware of body soaking, and they're going to be trying to body soak a lot. I think you actually are putting yourself at a disadvantage at the moment, though. I think you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. I really do think that body soaking at the moment is the least important it's ever been. If you watch the pro players playing Abathur, they actually just pretty much don't do it at all anymore. They used to, but now, no. They basically don't. It's just so dangerous. People punish it, and if you get punished, it puts yourself at a big disadvantage. The real strength of Abathur is how he enhances certain melee assassins, and just the global presence of the symbiote. That's where Abathur comes into play. That's where he's really strong. Gonna help out Illidan. That was a bit of a wasted mine, actually, but it's not a huge deal in the end. We are going to be absorbing the XP from this top lane. And then our teammates are kind of fighting down here. Gonna pop our clone out again. There's a little bit of a delay in activating that clone, so do bear that in mind. But we do manage to activate it just about in the end. We're gonna start chasing down this Gul'dan. This is one of the things about Abathur as well. If you want to use this clone ability, you kind of need to know all the heroes and how to play them in order to get the maximum value out of them. Because you could, in theory, clone any hero. Now, there will be certain, let's say, standard heroes that you tend to clone fairly often, because you learn heroes that are good. But yeah, there you go. Let me explain the, I'll come back to that. Let me explain the other talents first so you know what's going on there. So we got quite a bit into this video without talking about the actual talent build, except the most vague terms. So at level 1, I did pick up Pressurized Glands, which increases the range of Symbiote's Spike Burst by 25% and decreases the cooldown by 1 second. That's the W ability when we are in the Symbiote. You can see never use Symbiote on a minion that's about to die. But that W ability, it's going to have bigger range, make it easier to hit, and have a shorter cooldown. That's that's probably the best level 1 talent. I think it's really good. I got to synergize nicely with level 13 and 16. I'll come to those in a second. Level 4, I picked up Adrenal Overload. Whenever we have our Symbiote on something, we'll have 25% increased attack speed. This is going to make Illidan and even Vala substantially more powerful. And this is also why I say, like, I think it's really nice that Muradin and Illidan, really nice to have together, especially Muradin would give him the axe. It can be really powerful sort of later in the game. Nice amount of Morphosis from Illidan, dodging getting out of that sort of bad situation he was stuck in with the CC from the enemy team. We're just going to give him a shield. He's going to dive onto the wall and get out of there, no problem. I think in one of the other games I was playing yesterday, again, we had some relatively low standard games. We had people saying, you know, Varian is a better Illidan. No, he is not. He is absolutely not. You're seeing the strength of Illidan in this game. The mobility, the survivability, and the sustained damage he can get down. There's no hero anywhere near as mobile as Illidan is during a fight. He can be just incredible. Level 7 then, Needle Spine, which will increase the damage and the range of Symbiote's Stab, which is that Q ability, that single shot we fire out when we're in Symbiote form. You got some flexibility at level 7. I like this one though. I think it's just kind of a little bit nice, a little bit useful. And why the hell not? We're going to be in Symbiote form quite a lot. This will help us sort of focus down single targets. Should be pretty useful. Cloning out the Vala once again and coming in here. Going to pick off this Dahaka. Down he goes. I'm just going to push in on this fort. I could actually probably have turned around and started shooting the boss, but we're going to come in and focus on the fort instead with the other Vala. Actually, at this point, our Symbiote's almost gone. I was trying to hit Morales and dismount her. So just going to focus her down, try to do some damage to her. Illidan coming in as well. Have a Symbiote coming in. We could actually probably have continued to dive right there a little bit more, but no harm in backing off as well. Anyway, level 10 then I picked up Ultimate Evolution, which you've seen me use a couple of times. We clone a target allied hero for 20 seconds and has a 50-second cooldown. The clone has 20% bonus ability power, 20% bonus attack damage, and 10% bonus movement speed, but they have no talents, including no heroic ability. So you need to, basically, the clone is going to be good on heroes that are great without talents and that are great without heroic abilities. In this case, for example, you can see I've cloned Vala every time in this game so far. Because Vala is fantastic without any of that stuff. 20% more attack damage, 10% more movement speed, and then even 20% more damage on her abilities is so useful on a hero like Vala. She's really great at that. Other classic clone targets, I mean, Illidan is not bad. Greymane, very good one. Jaina, very solid as well. Li Ming isn't awful. Stuff like that. I say bad clone targets would be something like, let's say, Azmodan, right? Azmodan, so much of his power comes from his talents. That was pretty nice. Crystal Aegis there, and a nice Metamorphosis then aggressively afterwards to follow up. We're just keeping that Symbiote on top of Illidan and letting him just go absolutely ham. Varian would be an awful clone target as well, because so much of his power comes from his level 4 and level 10 talents. Yeah, basically, always be considering, okay, how good is this hero without talents, without their heroic. Now, it is somewhat up to your team as well to pick good heroes to go alongside Abathur. And that should help you out. If they pick a good solid range damage dealer, that's always a good choice. If they have a good solid melee assassin, that's always a good choice too. Sometimes you want to clone the tank, sometimes you want to clone the support. I think the more heroes that you're able to play, the better your life is going to be when you are playing Illidan. Illidan is just going to go ham right here. We're actually going to clone Illidan ourselves. All these structures are disabled, so the two Illidans, we are just going to be diving in on this Morales. Poor Morales, she's not going to have a good time. There we go, we managed to take her out. And that's really going to help us dive in here and finish off this game. Level 13 and 16, let me finish those off by the way too. Picked up so much transference at 13. Whenever our Spike Burst, the W from our Symbiote, hits an enemy hero, it will heal whoever we have on it for a big chunk of health per hero hit, just survivability. And then Envenom Spikes at 16. Our Spike Burst will also slow enemy movement speed by 40% for 2 seconds. So really nice. Obviously those synergize really well with the level 1 talent, which makes that Spike Burst bigger range and shorter cooldown. Gonna get way more value out of those talents. Level 20 then picked up Hive Mind. You'll see this second smaller symbiote. There it is on Johanna right now. That will appear on a hero near a symbiote and will reproduce all of the symbiote abilities, excuse me, for half damage and shielding. But that's really effective as well. We basically get 50% more value out of all the symbiote things. There we go, GG. We're on the core, we take it down, and really, really nice. So some things to say, quite a lot to say actually about Abathur before we go too much further. They actually got MVP, hooray! Did the most hero damage and got the best XP contribution. So yeah, this is kind of like your main, one of your main goals with Abathur. Like I said, I think the symbiote build that I described in this game, and hopefully you can see it here at the end of this video as well. We died 0 times, that's very important. You can see we did the most hero damage as well by quite a chunk. Now obviously Valo is AI for a lot of the game, so that is quite a large part of that. And here is the talent build. So once again, Pressurized Glands, Adrenal Overload, Needle Spine, Ultimate Evolution, Soma Transference, Envenomed Spikes, and Hive Mind. This is basically your standard Abathur build at the moment. In my opinion, right now, by the way, Abathur's win rate at the moment, overall in the game, is 44.7%. He is the 4th worst hero. Medivh and Cho'Gall are worse than him overall at the moment. He's doing really badly right now. In fact, let me check that for just Masters level, which is the sort of level we're playing at. Well, I suppose that game we had some weaker teammates and weaker enemies a little bit. Maybe Diamond-y sort of level, I don't know. Okay, at Masters level he's a bit better, but he's at 50% win rate overall at Masters level. So for Masters level, pretty bad, but at least it's 50%. It could be a lot worse. But yeah, so he's not fantastic, but he certainly does noticeably better at Master level than he does at lower levels, because he is very difficult to play. He is difficult to draft as well, and he does depend on having good teammates too. Yeah, so yeah, there you go. Like I said, I think this talent build, this symbiote build I went for, is pretty much your only choice right now. I really think that the other builds are substantially weaker at the moment. I would only be picking Abathur into a composition with the intention of playing it with symbiote build. So with the intention of playing it with something like a Greymane or an Illidan, maybe a Kerrigan, a Chen, something like that. That would be the sort of the situation where I would be looking to be playing the Abathur. I think this draft, this game was a very good example of that, because I was actually playing with a friend who I know for a fact is excellent on Illidan. That's the sort of situation where I'm more than happy to pick Abathur. I'm always quite skeptical and cautious doing that with a stranger. I would probably, honestly, if I was playing with a stranger in most circumstances, I would probably rather opt into just playing a standard range damage dealer instead. I would probably steer away from Abathur myself. But if you are playing with a friend, with someone that you know is going to be good on that hero you're going to be enhancing, such as an Illidan, Abathur can be incredibly impactful. Mention his maps real quick as well, and then just talk a little bit, final sort of summation of his playstyle and a few key tips to succeeding on Abathur. The maps he's good on, he tends to be good on very large maps where you can exploit his global ability. So for the example, at the moment, actually, it's a bit all over the place because he is pretty weak at the moment. But his classically his best maps have been Sky Temple, Cursed Hollow, a Battlefield of Eternity. At the moment, he's actually doing really badly on Battlefield of Eternity, but that's literally only 7 games played in the last week, so that's a very bad sample size. But yeah, Cursed Hollow he's played most often. He does pretty well on. Blackheart's Bay is not awful, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, Sky Temple, Cursed Hollow, those are going to be probably your go-to maps. And Battlefield of Eternity can be pretty decent as well. They'll be your standard enough go-to maps for using Abathur. Big maps where you can make use of his global. And also maps where you're not going to get pushed in too much. You're not going to get punished too much for your sort of the weaker sort of early game that you have, because you are quite weak until level 10. Level 10 is a big power spike for you. One thing I will say, actually, which might outrage some people, let's talk about his heroics for a second. So you got Ultimate Evolution, which you saw in this game, making a clone of a hero. The other one is Evolve Monstrosity, which has a 90-second cooldown. You turn an allied minion into Monstrosity, and then like it appears on the minimap and it pushes down lanes and stuff. You can use the Symbiote to physically control it. You know what, guys? I would not... if I was playing in Ranked, I would pick Ultimate Evolution every single time, because at the level I'm playing in Ranked, I know that it will be effective and that I need it to be effective in the team fights. However, I would say, honestly, playing at like a lower level game, I would quite consider, actually, with this build, I'd quite consider Evolve Monstrosity as probably being alright. I know this is going to be sacrilege to some people, but I think it's actually going to be quite alright. You know, like, I think in this particular game, I could have picked that up and it would have been okay. We did get good use out of Ultimate Evolution, but one thing to bear in mind, right, is that because we're building into Symbiote, that actually synergizes really nicely with Evolve Monstrosity, because you just throw that Evolve Monstrosity down and then you continue doing your Symbiote stuff, and all of the other talents, all other 6 talent tiers, continue to be fully effective as you just, you know, your heroic goes and pushes down a lane off to the side while you are doing your Symbiote things on your allies. So there is something to be said for it with this build in particular. Whereas obviously when we've cloned a hero, suddenly our other talents aren't doing anything because we're not actually using the Symbiote on anything. So that's something to bear in mind. I think for doing like kind of more fun, more casual games, I think Evolve Monstrosity is not a bad option. Obviously in high level gameplay and pro level gameplay, you will never see it picked. But there you go. It also, obviously, you can Symbiote onto the Evolve Monstrosity and be pretty strong. Again, like I said in this video as well a couple of times, body soaking is not too important on Abathur anymore. So kind of redefine your conception of how Abathur ought to be played. Body soak when it's very safe, but don't make it a big priority. You know, it's a very common thing, I think, you know, when you have good, experienced Abathur players, kind of familiar with how he used to be played. His playstyle has, appropriately I would say, evolved in the last while, but certainly it was a very important skill of good Abathurs in the past to body soak, to move his little slug body out into a lane near the minions to ensure you're getting maximum XP soakage for your team. So you'll see good Abathur players, or Abathur players in the know at the moment. If they see an Abathur not soaking, they'll often be like, Abathur's not body soaking. And while it would be nice to body soak, and you could see in this game there were times when I knew it was safe and I did move out down the lane, but I do think that it's not a major priority, especially not with the Symbiote build and not with how Abathur's played at the moment. I just feel like with the heroes especially that are kind of powerful in the meta, with Zeratul being here, Falstad, Dahaka, stuff like that, you can put yourself in a very vulnerable position, and I think if you are dead and you remove your Symbiote and all the Symbiote talents from the game for that little while you're dead, I think it actually leaves you worse off. So you really only want to be body soaking when it's absolutely necessary. What I would say, and hopefully you notice me doing in this game, is to put your body in a lane that is going to be pushed in, so you can just sit safely beside your fort, beside your towers, be completely safe behind your gate, and still be doing a little bit of body soaking as minions die to like the towers at the front or near the front of your little base there. I think that's quite an important little step that you can do to get some body soaking value without putting yourself in any danger. And yeah, then you just focus on using this empowered symbiote that you're building into to soak the other lanes when heroes leave them, to push those lanes, to kind of manage them, and then to be very, very impactful during the team fight. I think that's most of the stuff I want to cover with Abathur. Let me just think about it for 1 second before we end this video. I think that's pretty much everything. I do think that, obviously, as you saw, he becomes very powerful later into the game. Like, you could just see how the Illidan Abathur combo just really took off and became extremely punishing as we got later into the game. Really effective. You enhance what those heroes, what Illidan, what Greymane, all of them are trying to do so much by giving them extra survivability, extra damage. It's fantastic. Hive Mind is incredibly strong at level 20. So late game, you've got a huge boon when you're playing with an Abathur on your team. You've got a huge boon. You can play very aggressive with that ultimate evolution if you do pick that up as well, and it can be difficult for enemies to deal with that during the team fight. I'd say certainly, like I mentioned as well, the more heroes that you can play well, that you're able to clone and then know exactly what to do with them, the better off you will be. For example, in this game I cloned Illidan and Vala. I know how to play both of them really well, so I could instantly just hop on and make, you know, really effective use out of them without much thought, just kind of second nature. So do bear that in mind. But yeah, Abathur is going to be difficult to play in terms of knowing when to symbiote, where to symbiote, in terms of your mind placement, in terms of knowing when to body soak. And yeah, he's certainly a difficult hero. I think the low win rate reflects that. He's not in the best spot at the moment, but he is totally unique. He's a blast to play. I really enjoy him. Part of it as well, by the way, was Abathur Greymane was the big combo for a long time. Greymane is also very weak right now, which is another aspect of making Abathur kind of weak right now. And Illidan is not the greatest. He's okay, but he's not the greatest. But you can see in this game just how strong Abathur Illidan can be when you have a player you trust on the Illidan, and the Illidan has a player that they thrust them forwards. No, thrust into them. Excuse me. This is a PG show. Sorry. It's when both of you players have someone they trust on the other hero, you can just make incredible things happen with this combo. It's really awesome. So give it a spin. If you got a friend who plays Illidan and you like to play Abathur, go give it a spin. Bust it out on Cursed Hollow like we did here in this game. Bust it out on Sky Temple. One of these big maps. You can even try it, Battlefield of Eternity. And yeah, just have a blast. You're going to have some fun. Give this video, guys, a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe as well if you're new. Hello, welcome. And I will see you all next time for more Heroes of the Storm. Bye-bye.